Sanction. That's a tricky word, sanction, of the ultimate sanction of the principle of utility. The sanction is, when he asks what the sanction of the principle of utility is, he's asking what gives it its force, what gives it its authority. And it's a crucial question. What ultimately is the reason that we feel beholden to follow it? Now, this is a question that is, as Mill says, is something that is, I mean, it's a question that can be asked of any and must be asked of any candidate for the ultimate foundation of morality, or maybe any moral rule. Why should I follow it? Kant gave a certain type of answer, I suppose. Thomas Aquinas, I suppose, ultimately gives a certain type of answer, but Mill, he's got to give a utilitarian answer, you know. And, but what is he really asking about? I mean, okay, on the one hand, the principle of utility is the most natural thing in the world. Listen, happiness is the good. It's natural to us to do what makes us happy. Pleasure is not something, we ask whether we want to feel pleasure. I mean, we just enjoy pleasure. It's the very definition of enjoyment. So he's not really asking about that. He's asking about the greatest part of it, the greatest happiness. Why should I care about the happiness of others? Because that's, we saw in the last reading, that's such an important part of his message, is that the greatest happiness principle is the greatest happiness principle. That is, to do what's good doesn't simply mean to do what's best for us. It means to do what's best for everybody involved. Why should I care about others? And there's easy caring about others, and there's hard caring about others, and really keep in mind that to really follow the principle of utility, or the greatest happiness principle, we have to at least occasionally be willing to do things that make us personally unhappy, so that we can maximize the overall happiness. So, in this kind of strange way, this happiness principle is about being willing to sacrifice our happiness, right? If it's necessary, only if it's necessary. So, really, when he asked about the sanction, what could possibly have that kind of authority over me? That it would make me agree that, okay, I have to sacrifice my own happiness here for the sake of other people's happiness. What could do that? I mean, you know, um, he talks about two different types of sanctions, which is basically two different types of influences or authorities over us. One is external sanctions, which is really basically what other people think. You and the external sanctions are, I have to be a decent person in order for people to like me. Right? That is, if I'm totally selfish and I'm not willing to make sacrifices for others, it won't be good for me in the long run, because people will not treat me well if I don't treat them well. But those are external sanctions. He's more interested in the internal sanction. What is the motive within me? To do right by others, even if it means sacrificing some happiness of my own. And he says it right here: the ultimate sanction, therefore, of all morality, external motives apart, being a subjective feeling in our own minds. Ultimately, I must do right by others just because it's a subjective feeling that I have, which means what? That it would feel wrong not to do it. Right? Now, we're not talking about always just being completely self negating or never taking into account our own happiness. No, of course you should do that, Mill would say. But we have to have a subjective feeling where we actually care about the welfare of others, and where we would actually feel pain if we were not to do things that promoted their happiness, even if it meant sacrifice of some of our happiness. It has to be a feeling, right, that it would feel wrong. And he quite admits that not everybody has that feeling, and that that feeling may not be something that we're born with. And this gets to really a big aspect of Mill's book, and that is the importance of education. And our feelings have to be educated, and every hedonist, which really includes Aristotle too, I mean, another great Greek philosopher, we have to be educated in the right way. And this feeling for others, where it actually causes us pain to cause them pain, or it causes us pain not to do what we can to promote their happiness. It's something that I don't think Mill thinks we're born with it. I think what he would say, when he does say in this chapter, is that it can be cultivated in us. It's We're not born with this, but it's natural to us insofar it's natural for us, if given the right influences, to develop it. But ultimately, and this is something that Kant would completely reject, right? The duty to do right by others, it depends upon a subjective feeling, which we may or may not have. Hopefully, we'll have it, but there's no guarantee that we would.